Hello, and welcome to Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. This is where I'm so glad to have you here. This is our program that we've been doing since April. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library. And again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. I am coming to you live from my home here in Havertown. As I said, we've been doing this since April and cooking dishes from my kitchen. Again, my name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library. I am here at home with my husband and my two college-age kids who are home. And so I have a lot of eaters in my house. So I'm doing a lot of cooking here at my home. Again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. Good to see you, Mary. I'm glad that you're here. It looks like there's some folks that have joined us for Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. The Haverford Township Free Library, as many of you know, has reopened since this summer. We are open for business. We are open for grab and go service. So if you are looking to browse the shelves for a good read, especially since we are all going to be spending more time inside in the next couple of months because of winter, come on by. We are open. We just ask you to wear a mask. We do limit the number of people in the library, but if you are looking for a place to come and find some books, and you can also use our computers. We give 40-minute sessions on our public access computers. If you need a computer, the library is there for you. But again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. It looks like Carol's here. Welcome. And I just have a beginning question, because we are going to talk about turkey today. As everybody knows, Thanksgiving is coming up in the next 2.5 weeks. It's hard to believe. It's here. It certainly doesn't feel like November today. It feels like, summer. But Thanksgiving is definitely coming. And so we've been cooking some things, some Thanksgiving favorites, and today we're going to talk about turkey. So my question to the group is, and you can just answer in the comments, are you a dark meat person or are you a white meat person? I'd love to hear people chime in. It's funny, I used to be solely a white meat person, but as I have gotten older, I have really come to appreciate dark meat. I feel like it's very flavorful. Dark meat turkey, I think, is really has edged out white meat. I still eat the breast on the Thanksgiving turkey, but I always like the dark meat too. Like I said, it's much more flavorful. And it just has much more of a depth of flavor. It's definitely moister. So I'd love to hear from folks. See that Mary says white only. Love to hear everybody else. What are your preferences? I will tell you this about Thanksgiving. I am now really the primary host in this neck of the woods. I have family that lives all over the country. But I am now the host for Thanksgiving, usually for my parents and my mother-in-law and sometimes some of my other family that comes into town. And I just find that there's just absolutely no way I can do most of the things the day of. I just get too overwhelmed, and then I sit down to the meal and I'm exhausted. And so I have tried really hard to make things in advance. You may have seen a couple of weeks ago, we did a sweet and savory sweet potato crumble that has this great Parmesan and nut topping, which is a great make ahead. If you want that recipe, just visit our website, or it should be associated with the video on Facebook. If you can't find it, just email me at shannon@haverfordlibrary.org. I'm happy to send it to you. But that's something I do in advance. I also do my cranberry sauce. I did that last episode. I do that in advance. And today I'm going to actually show you how I do make ahead gravy. I know as you pull the turkey out of the oven and you're cooking your potatoes and you've got all these things trying to get the meal and you're carving the turkey and you're trying to get it onto the table, I find that gravy is just one of those things that I need to eliminate from that last minute preparation. So I actually do a make ahead gravy a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Now, again, I do make gravy again. I just don't do it the day of just because it's just too much of a hassle, but I do take the drippings from the turkey and make it later. Again, I have 2 college-age boys, and so there's never enough gravy in my house, especially with the leftovers and with another dish that I'm going to show you today. So I do make a make-ahead gravy, and again, I will make it again after Thanksgiving, but I just don't do it the day of. And I'd love to hear other people, what their experiences are if you host. How do you do gravy? I just find that, trying to do that and mash the potatoes and carve the turkey and get everything, and cook the vegetables and get it on the table is just too much. So I have found this recipe, this make ahead gravy recipe, just a godsend. And it's funny because I'm talking about gravy, and of course I am coming to you from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And when I moved here, I'm not from here. I grew up in Delaware. But the first time somebody referred to gravy and they weren't actually talking about meat gravy, I was really, really confused. But around here, sometimes if people refer to gravy, they're talking about red sauce. Folks who are Italian cooks, and they talk about gravy. And I remember being really, really confused when people talked about it. But we are actually talking about turkey gravy today. I don't know if I would feel comfortable actually trying to show you my red sauce, because I'm sure that the Italian cooks in the bunch would probably say you are doing it wrong. But I'm not sure I could live up to some of the amazing cooks that I know around here who do their gravy, do their red sauce. But again, today we are going to talk about turkey gravy. The other thing I'm going to show you is a recipe that I do after Thanksgiving. It's something that also requires gravy, is something called turkey roll-ups. And this is a Bear family tradition. So this came from my side of the family. My husband and my kids love it. And we actually got it when my stepdad joined our family. This was his recipe. So Jim Lappin, thank you so much for this recipe. And we make it every year. And it is a way to use up some of the turkey, especially if you had a big turkey. And it is something to drench using your leftover gravy. If you have any leftover gravy, you definitely put gravy on this dish. So I'm going to show you both today. So we have kind of a lot to do. So I am going to take us over to my kitchen and start showing you some of the things I do with make ahead gravy. Now, just to let you know, I will post the recipe for make ahead gravy, Mary, and it is from All Recipes. It's something I found online, but I really find that it's a great time saver the day of. So here we go to my kitchen, and we are headed over here. So I have to say that I started this recipe this morning. I had to go off to work at 9 o'clock, and so I did actually some of this. I started, but again, if you are in the kitchen doing some other things for Thanksgiving, there's like some things that you can do with this recipe, and then you wait an hour and a half, and then because it has to cook, and then you can be doing something else. So this is again a really good like Tuesday or Wednesday day if you've got off to get things ahead of time. So I started this morning with 4 very large turkey wings, and I actually got this at Giant. And I put them in a roasting pan with 2 medium onions, and I didn't do anything other than just quarter them, and threw them in with the turkey legs and put them in the oven at 400 degrees for an hour and a quarter. And they roasted away. It smelled fabulous in my kitchen this morning. And then I took them out, and they were beautifully browned. I had kept the skin on. The onions were really nicely browned. And I actually left it there and went on to work. And then actually I worked on the broth this afternoon. So I took those 4 turkey wings, and again, they were substantial because they came from a turkey and not a chicken. And I put them in a very large pot, and I'm going to show you the pot I put it in. It's actually here. I put the turkey wings in here. I put in 3/4 of a cup of chopped carrot. I put in, it asked for dried thyme, a 1/2 teaspoon, but I have fresh still out on my deck, so I actually used fresh thyme. And then it asked me to take just a cup of water, and I had the turkey in this pan, and I just took the water and deglazed the pan. It actually the pan was kind of warm, so it just kind of chipped off and dissolved the water, and then I put that cup that had deglazed the bottom of that pan that I had roasted the turkey wings into the pot. And then I put in 6 cups of, it calls for chicken broth. I actually found turkey broth because we're close to Thanksgiving. So I put in 6 cups of turkey broth. I just got it at the store. It wasn't anything special, but it really made it special because then you put the turkey wings in, you put the carrots, you put the cooked onions that you had roasted the turkey wings in, and then I just set it to boil for at kind of a medium low boil for about 1.5 hours, and then it really started to smell good in my house. I did the thyme. I used a little bit more than a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme because I used fresh. So I probably used about, maybe 2 teaspoons, close to a tablespoon of fresh thyme. So anyway, so then it was this broth is just, so I am at this point where I have taken the turkey wings out, and I am left with kind of the what's left of the vegetables in here, and then just this really super concentrated broth that I think is just going to be amazing. So we're going to start with what I do next, which is I'm going to push down this so you actually just see my midsection again. I'm going to strain this broth that's still got kind of the vegetable bits in it, because we're not going to put that in the gravy. That was just for seasoning. So I'm going to ladle this in. And it's just, I'm using a colander. You can use a strainer. I don't have a terribly big strainer, so I'm just using this kind of smallish colander, and I'm just straining it into a glass bowl. Eventually, I am going to get the fat off of this, but now I'm just going to pour this. I am pouring all of this amazing broth. Now, I am going to press down on all of these vegetables. As you can see here, this is really just kind of the dregs. Again, we are not going to actually use these vegetables, but we want to press all of the liquid out of this this vegetable mixture that's left, just so we get all of the amazing flavor and get all of the moisture out. And I am going to do that, and we're just going to kind of squish this around to get all of the amazing liquid. And you'll see here, I'll show it to you in a second. You can actually see it, how rich this broth is, because it's been cooking. The turkey's been cooking in it, and all of the turkey broth that I put in there. So it's all melded, and I think it's just going to be fantastic. Okay, so we are done with that. And as you see here, we have a good amount of broth, but there's quite a bit of fat on this. So, and I'll tell you this was probably the best thing one of the better appliances I ever got, which is a strainer. And I'm going to put this broth in this skimmer. And the nice thing is, let me just get this all in there, because I do have kind of it is got some oil from the skin, and because it was a dark meat, it tends to be a little bit fattier. So as you can see, I have this little line here of grease, and I'm just going to kind of let this settle. And while we do that, I am going to bring my pot. This is it calls for about a 3-quart pan, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this out of the way too. And we are going to pour off, and the way this works is it's going to pour off using this spout, and it's going to leave the grease behind, which is just fabulous. And I say, if you don't have this, get one for Thanksgiving, because it is a great way to degrease your stock. Okay, so it looks like it's settling, and the grease and the oil are coming to the top. So we're just going to pour this in, and again, it is going to leave the oil behind, the greasiness that came from that skin, and from the and from the kind of the oiliness of the dark meat, and we're just going to be left with the broth. Sorry about that. You know, if you live in Havertown and the fire siren goes off, I'm close to a couple of them. You're going to hear it. So I apologize for the background noise. And again, we are almost here at the bottom. And again, the way this contraption works is it is really just giving us the good stuff and leaving the oil. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out, I think pretty much we have the grease that's left. And so we're going to put this to the side. And the next thing that this recipe calls for is, it had called for 2 quarts. I only put 6 cups in because it had me reserve 2 cups. And this is just the turkey broth that I got at the store. And it's going to ask me now to put 3/4 of a cup of flour into this broth. Again, this broth is just room temperature. And really, what it wants me to do is just whisk this around and incorporate you're basically making a slurry. You're making a slurry with your flour, and eventually, once you get this pretty much incorporated, you're actually going to put this. And while we're doing this, I'm actually going to turn on my heater, and we're going to get this back up to a boil. Eventually, this is all going to go. We're going to drizzle this into the rest of this gravy. And the flour is, of course, the thickening agent, and that is going to help thicken up this gravy. So this is pretty well incorporated. This is a good way to kind of avoid lumps. There are a couple of lumps in here. There's, not a whole lot I can do about that. But we are going to, this is pretty much incorporated now. Again, this is just the 2 cups of the turkey broth that I bought, and about 3/4 of a cup of flour. So as this starts to heat up, I'm going to get my recipe here to make sure I am doing everything that I need to do at this point. The other thing I wanted to tell you about the turkey is I actually cut up that turkey meat, and I'm actually going to use it for my turkey roll-up tonight. But you can use that for something else. It is, again, you'll be doing this right before Thanksgiving. If you need turkey for something else, like your stuffing, I don't know, some people like to put turkey in their stuffing. You can use it for that. Sometimes people use it for turkey soup. I usually use this cut up turkey for turkey roll-ups, along with the turkey that I do on Thanksgiving. So I am getting this back up to a boil. And I am just going to gradually whisk this in as soon as we kind of get it close to a boil. And I'm going to whisk this really constantly until the gravy has thickened. And then there'll just be 2 more ingredients that'll go in. We'll do a little bit of butter and a little bit of pepper, and then we'll be done. So, and then we'll move on to turkey roll-ups, which is also one of my favorites. So just gonna check here and see where we are. This should come up to a boil pretty quickly. And then we are going to start to slowly pour this in. And you know what I'm going to do, just so we don't have a mess, is I'm going to put this in a this will be a little easier to pour in, so we're not spilling it everywhere. Okay. So I am going to just start to slowly put in this mixture. Again, this is just a slurry of flour and my my reserve broth, the ones that I did not put in and cook with the turkey wings. And I'm just slowly but surely putting this in. You don't want to dump it in all together. And really, as this is starting to boil, this is going to start to thicken. And you're going to have a really nice consistency of gravy. So I'm looking at my, as I'm doing this, did most people say white meat? It looks like there were white meat only. Love to hear if anybody else, what they do with all their dark meat, if they only eat the white meat, or are there people in your family that will oblige and eat the dark meat for you if you are just a white meat eater. And again, I used to be, when I was a kid, it was only white meat. That was the only thing I would eat. And now I've really become kind of a convert to dark meat, turkey and chicken too. I just think it's very, very flavorful. So this is already starting to get thicker as I pour this in. I'm about halfway through. And again, I'm doing this really slowly. And what's great is that you're doing this and you're not, you don't have kids fighting in the background and, your dad saying, when are we going to eat? Or, the people, fighting over the remote and which football game to watch. You can do this on a quiet Tuesday or Wednesday before things get too hectic on Thanksgiving. And then you can just literally stick this in the refrigerator and then you can pop it up. You can bring it out the day of and zap it in the microwave, and it is, or you can stick it back in a pan because it may be a little bit thick when you pull it out, and you might want to just add, a cup or just some additional broth just to kind of bring it back. It's easily done, very easily done the day of. You just stick it in a saucepan, but you're not having to make it when you're trying to do, all the other things on Thanksgiving Day, which I just can't do. I don't know about you all. I'm just not much of a chew gum and walk kind of gal. I really like to have just a couple of tasks. It's really, I can multitask, but I do much better, and I cook much better when I'm not under that much stress. And I think it's because everybody's hungry by the time they get to the table. And they're like, when is it going to be time? And I'm just like, and I'm hungry too, but I'm also and it's hot. And, as you can tell, my kitchen's really small. So then it's like, me and my mom and my husband and trying to do everything all in this tiny little kitchen. So anyway, I've put all of that broth that was mixed with my flour, and it's definitely starting to thicken. It has this beautiful dark color. I'm really excited about this. And we're just going to let this cook for a little bit longer and actually bring it to a boil and maybe cook it for about a minute. You want to make sure you kind of get that raw flour taste out. And I think just about a minute boil will do that. And then you'll be done. And it should be the right consistency for gravy. So again, this is really looking good. As you can see, it's starting to get really thick. Again, I'm using a whisk. You can't really tell, but I think if you had a spoon, let me see if I can pull out a spoon, you would see that this is starting to actually cling to the spoon, which is what you want. as you can see here, it's actually clinging to the spoon. It's getting to the consistency that we want. Now, once we cook this for about a minute, once it actually gets to a boil, we're going to actually turn it off, and we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter and a little bit of pepper, and you know, just salt. It should be salty, but you can add a little salt to taste. So again, this is getting really nice. And the other thing is you can freeze this. So if you really want to do this way ahead of time, you can freeze this too. It freezes well. I think the recipe says it'll freeze for a couple of months. But again, it doesn't last very long in my house. And then I'm making gravy again the day after. So now, as you can see, we're getting a little bit of a bubble here, and it is getting to a really nice consistency. We're just going to let this cook for maybe another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to put in the butter and the pepper, and we will be done. And then we're actually going to use some of this for our turkey roll-ups. Not only do you use it in the dish, but then you'll pour it over the top. So I think we are pretty much done here. It is a nice consistency, and I'm going to put in these last ingredients. So again, about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper and 2 tablespoons of butter. And that is just going to melt away and easily incorporate into our gravy. And we will be set. And then I'm going to kind of move our studio so I can show you how to make the turkey roll-ups, which again, it just wouldn't be Thanksgiving without the day after doing turkey roll-ups. I know that my siblings also make these on Friday after Thanksgiving, so it is definitely a Bear family tradition now. So okay, so this is pretty much melted now, and again, this is the final product, and this is really hot, so I don't want to actually touch this, but I'm going to let you see the final. I have just a little bit of butter left to melt here. And we are done. So again, here is our gravy. It's just gorgeous. It's that beautiful dark brown color that's got all of the wonderfulness of cooking the turkey. And so we are going to move over to the next part and show you the turkey roll-ups. Okay, so try not to make you too seasick. So turkey roll-ups are basically a biscuit with turkey on it, and it's rolled up, and it's pinwheels that you bake, just like you would bake some, you would bake biscuits. You actually follow the recipe in terms of how long you actually cook the biscuits. I mean, the turkey is already cooked. The gravy is already cooked. You're just cooking the biscuit around it. So we're going to start with, and I'll tell you this, I did not make my own biscuit dough. I did get some canned biscuits, and I kind of flattened this out into a fairly large biscuit, roll-out biscuit. And so what we're going to do now is we're actually going to start with some gravy all over, and I'm going to get my ladle again, and we are going to take our gravy that we just made, and I'm going to get one more pad since this is still pretty hot. And I love having granite countertops because I can actually put that on without worrying that it's going to scorch. So I have this gravy. You are going to take just a ladle, probably about a ladle full, and you're going to kind of spread this around. Now, you may not always do this hot. You will probably do this with cold gravy, which is perfectly fine because you are going to it's all going to cook in the oven. So, but we are using kind of a hot gravy right now, and I'm going to take a spoon and just kind of spread this around. You really just want a thin layer that goes all over your biscuit dough. And you don't want it too soupy. You just want to kind of moisten up this biscuit dough. Again, you are going to pour gravy over your finished product after it comes out of the oven, but you do start with gravy on this. Okay, so that is all spread around. Now, as I said, I actually chopped up this turkey that I used for the gravy, and I am going to spread this around fairly liberally all over the biscuit dough that now has gravy on it. And you want to make sure that, you know, there's a bite of turkey in pretty much every bite. So I tend to be pretty generous, although you don't want it so full that you can't roll it, because you're going to roll this like you would a cinnamon bun. You will, you know, so you don't want this to be overly heavy, but you also want to make sure that there's plenty of turkey. So we have now put the turkey on there. I'm going to move my gravy back to the stove. And then I'm also going to, so I'm going to put it in this Pyrex dish. And then I'm going to bake it off. Really just follow the directions for the biscuits. So this calls for a 375 oven for about, 11 to 15 minutes. You will know when it's done. It will be nice and brown on the top. So we are going to roll this up, and we're going to get it going as a roll, just like you would like cinnamon buns. I do sticky buns in at Christmas time, and I roll this up similarly, and then you're just going to cut them like into pinwheels, and it will cook. So as you see, I'm just kind of tightly rolling this up, and hopefully I will get it, and I'll be able to pull it back, so then we can, these are going to be fairly large. You can, you can make these smaller if you want, but again, this is generally a meal. So, and I'm going to turn this so that it is seam side down. And as you see, I have it completely ready. And I'm going to take some string. This is really the best way to cut pinwheels. A knife will just squish it down. I think a string always helps to make them stay round and pretty. Okay, so we are, and again, it's just using the pin, and that's the first one. There's not a whole lot of meat in that one, but as you see, I'm just putting the two strings, and then I am crossing them, and then I am slicing, and that's the way you do it. And again, they stay fairly round that way. Instead of using a knife, a string is really the best way to get the nicest shape. And we will just go through this whole, and I guess I am going in maybe about, half an inch. I mean, you don't want them so thick. You can make them thicker, but I would say a half inch to 3/4 of an inch, kind of the way a cinnamon bun, maybe not a Cinnabon, I mean, those are huge. But these are, again, about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch. And we are just going through this roll, and I am, I'm just putting them in this pan. I may run out of room here. I might need another pan, but that's okay. That's just more for the Shannons. These don't stay around very long. We have them for dinner, and they're usually gone by supper time. And by bedtime, they just, they come back for their second and third dinners, because it is so good. Unless I put it away and say, don't touch, this is mine, they're all gone. Okay. So we are getting here, and as you can see, we're filling our pan. I may need one more pan, just a small pan, because we may, as you can see, we're kind of coming to the end here. We'll see how many we actually get in this pan. but this is a great way to take care of turkey leftovers, especially if you had a very large turkey and you're thinking, okay, how many nights can I actually have roast turkey? This is a nice way, and it's kind of a nice spin. So yeah, it looks like I am going to be almost, I'd probably get them all in here if I really stuff them. And again, they will really puff up. Again, this is a biscuit dough is a quick bread, so it's using a leavening agent, but not yeast. So I'm just going to kind of stuff this in here and stick this in here, and that is it. Those are my turkey roll-ups, and they are really delicious. It is a crowd pleaser, especially if you still have family on Friday after Thanksgiving. This is a great way to use your leftovers and not cook too much. This is a pretty quick dish, and you can bake it off again 11 to 15 minutes in a 375 oven. So anyway, that is it. I've gotten very sweaty, but thank you for joining us. These recipes, I will show you the final product. I will post pictures on the Facebook Live event, and I will also post the recipes for you to use. I think this is a great time saver for the day of Thanksgiving, and great ways to use your leftovers. So thanks for joining me. Again, my name is Mary Bear Shannon. I'm a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library, and this was Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. Take care, everybody, and have a great week.